Season 1, Episode 1. The first memory wasn't mine. There's a difference between forgetting and never knowing. And I knew, deep in my bones, that I had never known this memory before. But I remembered it. I was 12 when it first came to me. I was walking home from school, dragging my backpack behind me, angry about something small and stupid, when suddenly I saw a woman tied to a wooden post, her hair soaked in blood, her mouth sewn shut with what looked like horsehair. And the worst part, I could feel the blood running down my own neck. I screamed so hard, I passed out on the sidewalk. My mother said I had low blood sugar. My father said I should stop watching horror movies. But neither of them looked me in the eye after that. They knew something. By the time I turned 16, the memories got more vivid, more specific. I knew how to tie knots I'd never learned. I spoke words in Latin in my sleep. I started drawing symbols I had never seen before on the fogged-up mirror in the bathroom, and always the same phrase, again and again. Forgive us. We chose to inherit it. I didn't understand. Not then. But everything changed the night my best friend died. Her name was Elena. We were walking back from a party. I was tipsy. She was laughing. And then she just stopped, mid-sentence. She looked at me like I had slapped her. You said it again, she whispered. What? That voice. That phrase. You keep saying it. It's not English, but I hear it in my head, and it's coming from your mouth. I want to tell her I had no idea what she meant, but something in me knew exactly what she meant, because right then, in the cold night air, I remembered another moment, a different forest, a woman crying, a circle of men in black robes, and me. I was one of them. I was the one holding the knife. The next morning, Elena was found dead, drowned, no water in her lungs, no signs of struggle, just her body curled in a fetal position in the middle of her bedroom floor, soaked from head to toe. Police called it cardiac arrest. But the coroner's notes, which I stole from my uncle's desk, said something else. Mouth was sewn shut postmortem. Horsehair thread. I dropped the file, and I vomited in the sink because I remembered. The knot, the thread, the smell of burnt rosemary. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a flashback. It was a memory, but it didn't belong to me. Or maybe it did. That's when I started recording everything. The dreams, the drawings, the voices. And that's when others started finding me. The girl in Florida who remembered drowning again and again, even though she never swam. The boy in Mexico who woke up screaming in Old German. The woman in Ohio who lost her child and then swore she saw the same child, 200 years older, begging her to give a name she never heard before. We were all remembering the same things, but none of us had lived them. We hadn't inherited wealth. We hadn't inherited trauma. We had inherited sin, not symbolically, not metaphorically, literally. And someone, somewhere, was using us to reenact the original crimes, like puppets, like vessels, like unfinished business crawling back into flesh. I don't know who's doing it. Not yet, but I know this. The first memory wasn't mine, but the next one might be, and I don't know if I'll survive it. Episode 2, a murder I never committed, but remembered clearly. There was blood on my hands. Real blood, not symbolic, not imagined. Thick, dark, iron-smelling blood. And it wasn't mine. It was 4 a.m. when I woke up, standing in the middle of my kitchen, barefoot, cold towel beneath me, the light still off, and the blood coating my fingertips. My breath was shallow. My shirt was damp. I was trembling, but I wasn't afraid. I was calm, like I just finished something. Something difficult. Something sacred. The silence around me was loud, like the world was holding its breath. And then a voice in my head whispered, as if from some far-off chapel. One more, and the circle is complete. That's when I ran to the sink, scrubbing my hands like they were cursed, skin peeling, nails cracking. I checked my phone, no calls, no messages. I checked the door, locked from the inside. I should have felt safe, but I knew better, because I had seen her, in my dream, or whatever that was. I saw the girl. She was maybe 18. Red hair. Freckles like constellations. She was sitting in a chair. Tied. Gagged. She was praying. Not for her life, but for mine. She looked into my eyes and said, in a voice not her own, "You are not evil, but you are chosen to carry it." And then she smiled, forgave me, before I slit her throat. It was a clean cut, fast, silent, and I felt nothing. No horror, no regret, only the satisfaction of completion, like closing a book, like ending a ritual. But when I woke, the memory didn't fade. It stayed with me. Every detail, every heartbeat, every thought that wasn't mine, but lived in my skull like it belonged there. I called the police. I didn't know what else to do. I told them I might have hurt someone. I couldn't explain. I just asked if there were any incidents nearby. They laughed, told me to sleep more, to lay off the weed. I didn't smoke. But 2 days later, she was found, not by the police, by a priest, in the back of an abandoned chapel, for towns over. Red hair, 18, freckles like stars. Cause of death? Throat slit? No defensive wounds. No signs of sexual violence. Just one note left behind. Chosen, not cursed. That's when I knew this wasn't coincidence. I wasn't dreaming. I was remembering. Or worse, I was completing someone else's memory. But whose? And why now? I started digging. Into folklore, into church records, into a hidden archive of trial transcripts from the 1700s. There it was. Margaret Wren, age 18, executed by the Order of the Veil, charged with spiritual treason. The last word spoken about her? She saw the future and refused to obey it. I stared at the parchment. My hands trembled. My breath stopped because I had written those words in Latin on my bathroom mirror a week before. I think I'm not the only one. I think we're all part of a chain, not haunted by spirits, but recruited by the sins themselves. They need us to repeat, to remember, to reenact, so they can live again, so they can finish what they started. It's not possession. It's not insanity. It's legacy, one we never chose, but one that has chosen us. And if I'm right, I haven't murdered anyone yet, but the memory is coming. And when it does, it won't feel like murder. It'll feel like duty. Episode 3. The touch that made her bleed. They say skin holds memory. The fingerprints of your past. The warmth of who you loved. The bruise of who you hurt. But no one ever told me it could unlock something. Something buried. Something buried for centuries. Her name was Isabel. She worked at the library near the church I'd been visiting for answers. Hidden beneath the archives, in the basement few people even knew existed. She was quiet, eyes like wet glass, voice always 2 decibels softer than everyone else's, like she had learned early on that silence was safer than truth. I asked for the 1730s trial books. She blinked, then nodded slowly. "You know they were burned, right?" she said. I shrugged. Not all of them. She didn't ask why I needed them, but I could tell she already knew. Not the reason, just the weight, the familiarity. She handed me a dusty binder that smelled like forgotten prayers. And for a second, just a second, our fingers touched. That's when it happened. She screamed, loud, violent, like someone had set fire to her lungs. She clutched her head and dropped to her knees, breathing like she was drowning. I rushed forward, trying to help her, but the moment I reached for her, she bled. From her nose, from her ears, and worst of all, from a thin, invisible line across her neck. Exactly where I had seen the girl die in my dream. Exactly where I had cut her. I froze. Every muscle in my body wanted to help her, but my soul knew it was too late. Isabel wasn't in that room anymore. Her eyes had turned pale. Her lips quivered, not from fear, but from recognition. And then she spoke, voice like an echo through stone. "You carried it to me. You carried it again." Then she collapsed. I don't remember calling 911. I don't remember the paramedics. I don't remember the questions. But I remember her whisper, her final words before the ambulance doors closed. I dreamed you before I met you. And in the dream, you let me die. I went home and locked every door. I sat on my bed, knees against my chest, staring at my hands like they were loaded guns. And then my phone buzzed. One new message. Unknown number. Just 3 words. She remembered you. No name. No photo. Nothing. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, until the weight of those words sank into my spine. She remembered me, but not from this life. From another. From a time when my name was different. My face was crueler, and my hands did what I now dreamed. I can't tell what's worse. That I'm becoming someone else, or that I've always been him. The next day, a package arrived at my doorstep. No return address. No name. Inside, a photograph, black and white, cracked, of a man, tall, hollow-eyed, standing behind a woman who looked exactly like Isabel, tied to a post. The man's hand rested gently on her shoulder, and behind them, carved into stone wall, "We inherit who we kill." Episode 4. His voice in my head isn't mine. I used to think the scariest thing was hearing a voice in your head. Now I know what's worse is realizing it doesn't sound wrong. It fits. It echoes in the exact shape of your skull, like it always belonged, like it's been waiting. It began 3 nights after Isabel died. I hadn't left the house, barely eaten. I kept every light on, but still the shadows whispered. I thought maybe it was grief, maybe trauma rewired my senses. But then he spoke. "You're remembering backwards. Start from the blood." It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It was intimate, like a thought I didn't create, like memory being whispered backwards into my soul. I stood in front of the mirror, staring into eyes I wasn't sure were mine. And he continued, "Not all killers are evil. Some are just chosen to end what others begin." I slammed the mirror. Glass shattered, but the voice didn't stop. He laughed. Not the kind of laugh that threatens. The kind that understands. Like he was proud. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened. To him. To me. To us. He told me about Margaret, the girl I slid into memory. He said I had known her before. Loved her. That the killing wasn't rage, but ritual. That her death was a promise she asked me to fulfill. And the worst part? I believed him. Because as he spoke, my body reacted like it remembered her. My hands tingled, my chest tightened, and I could smell her again, lavender and ash. The next morning, there was a symbol carved into the wall behind my bed. I didn't do it. I couldn't have. But it was there, etched deep, a perfect circle with 7 inward arrows. My fingers fit exactly into its grooves. And when I touched it, his voice returned, louder this time. "You are the altar. And altars do not choose. They are chosen." I call my friend Ezra. He's a theology student, obsessed with forgotten religions. He came over, took one look at the symbol, and went pale. "You need to leave," he said. "You need to burn this. Move. Run." "Why?" He showed me an old manuscript, photocopied, faded, the same symbol, next to one word in Latin, interfectorum. The sacrificial one. The one who kills to protect the pattern of fate. Ezra was shaking. "You don't get it. This isn't demonic. This is older than demons. It's blood memory. Generational transference. You're not haunted. You're coded." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. But instead, I said something I didn't recognize. The first death is a key. The last death is a door. Ezra stepped back. "What did you just say?" I blinked. "What?" "You just quoted the Book of 12 Wounds. In original phrasing. That book's been lost for centuries. I had never heard of it. But somehow, I knew what was written on the next page. Now the voice isn't just inside me. It's in my hands. When I touch things, they hum. When I close my eyes, I see lives that aren't mine. I feel guilt I never earned. And shame I didn't deserve. And still, he tells me, "You're not guilty. You're not cursed. You're functioning." But I don't feel functional. I feel fractured, like someone took a soul, broken into 1,000 lives, and left me holding the sharpest piece. Tonight, I wrote something in my sleep. I woke to find it carved into my bedroom floor. A date, April 19th, 1724. And below it, a name, but it wasn't mine. It was his. Episode 5. They all remember me, but I don't know them. I never told anyone the name. Not Ezra, not my parents, not the therapist who stopped replying to my messages after our 3rd session. And yet, they knew it. Not my name, not the one on my ID, my diploma, my birth certificate. The other name, the one carved into floor that night, the one whispered by the voice inside me when I woke up drenched in sweat and history. Thaddeus Vale. The first time someone said it out loud, I was in line at a gas station. An old man, fragile, shaking hands, yellowing eyes. He stared at me too long, then said with a voice made of sand, "You look young for a man who's killed 12 prophets." I froze. He smiled like it was an insult, like it was admiration. "You've got the same eyes, same trembling jaw. Do you remember the river? The way her body floated?" I backed away. "I think you have the wrong person," I said. His smile vanished. "No," he said. "I think you're the only right person left." I ran, didn't look back. But the next day, it happened again. A woman in a bookstore, blonde streaked with silver. She handed me a book I hadn't asked for, The Doctrine of Wounds, and said casually, "Still pretending you don't know Latin, Thaddeus?" My spine locked. I whispered, "Who are you?" She looked me dead in the eye. "I'm the one you didn't save. In Prague, in 1731, you said the stars told you to let me die." I don't remember these people, but they remember me. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. And that's the most terrifying thing I've faced so far. Because maybe memory isn't something you hold. Maybe memory is something that holds you. And maybe I'm not a victim of the past. Maybe I am the past. Still walking, still talking, still bleeding into the present. I tried to prove myself wrong. I went to genealogist, asked for my bloodline. She smiled politely, asked for my DNA, took the swab, said I'd get results in 2 weeks. 3 days later, she called me in the middle of the night, breathless. "This can't be right," she said. "There's the break, a fracture. Your genetic markers show signs of duplication." Duplication? She lowered her voice. "It's as if your genome was copied, reinserted, like someone hit repeat on your existence." I told Ezra. He didn't laugh. Instead, he showed me a parchment he'd found online, digitized from a Jesuit vault in Belgium. The name Thaddeus Vale appeared 3 times. 1724, 1796, 1842. Same face, same crimes, same symbol beside the name. Ezra said one sentence that chilled my bones more than any ghost ever could. "You're not being haunted. You're being replicated." I started seeing them everywhere. Not ghosts, not visions. People, real people. But when I looked into their eyes, something ancient looked back. Some called me Thaddeus. Some called me the inheritor. Some simply nodded, like we shared a burden older than language. And always, always the same phrase. "You remember forward. We remember you back." I'm starting to forget what normal feels like. I don't know where I end and he begins. If I walk into a mirror, I don't know which one of us will be looking back. But I do know this. They remember me, and they're waiting for me to remember all of them. Episode 6. Burnt in 1732, alive in 2025. I shouldn't have gone there. Everything in my body screamed don't. But curiosity has always been louder than caution. Ezra found the record. A small village outside Pennsylvania. Abandoned in 1893. Burned down twice. It used to be called New Hollow. But in 1732, it had another name. Valamortem. The town where Thaddeus Vale, I, was sentenced to death. There's a kind of silence only forgotten places hold. It's not quiet. It's emptied. Like even the wind avoids memory. I parked at the edge of what used to be the chapel square. There was nothing left but ash and fractured stone. But my feet, they knew the way. I walked 12 paces forward, turned left. There it was. A circular pit lined with ancient brick. Blackened. Cracked. A pyre. And I didn't need a tour guide to know. I had burned here. Suddenly, my chest clenched. Not fear. Not anxiety. Recognition. I fell to my knees. My hands touched the cold earth, and it began. Not a memory. A reliving. I could smell it. Charcoal and wet rope. I could hear the crowd. Chanting. Crying. And the voice of the man in robes. Let his soul be unmade by flame. Let no trace be left for time to carry. I saw myself, bound, trembling, but not begging. I didn't plead. I didn't cry. I smiled, because I knew something they didn't. The fire started, but it didn't consume me. Not completely. I remember the heat, but not the pain. I remember the screams, but they weren't mine. And I remember the woman, in the back of the crowd, face covered in a silver veil, holding something in her palm, something glowing. She whispered something in a tongue I've never learned. And just as the flame should have swallowed me whole, they folded inward, as if the fire changed its mind. I came back to myself, gasping, dirt in my teeth, nails bleeding. I had clawed the edge of the pit, like something inside tried to pull me back. And my left wrist burned, not from now, from then, a perfect circle, fresh, as if the fire finally left its mark. On my car windshield, someone had left a note, just one line. She rewrote your death. Find her before they reverse it. I looked up. No one, just the trees, watching. I took the note, flipped it over. A symbol I had only seen once, on the chest of the priest in the 1732 memory, the Order of the Veil, and below it a name, Seraphina. I don't know who she is, but I know what she did. She stole my death from time. She interrupted the ritual. And now, I'm living on borrowed years. And something, or someone, wants the fire to finish what it started. They tried to erase me, but I didn't die in 1732. And that means I'm not just an echo of the past. I'm the glitch, the fracture, the one death that never completed. And I think the universe is trying to correct itself. Episode 7. The real curse wasn't death. You think the worst thing they can do is kill you, but death is quick, clean, final. No, the worst thing they can do is let you live, half finished, half buried, half bound to a fate you were never meant to carry. I found her in the hills north of Alamortem. The town was long gone, but she wasn't. She lived in a house made of silence, curtains thick as tombstones. The air smelled like something old, trying not to be remembered. She opened the door before I knocked. "Thaddeus," she said, like she had just woken from a dream and expected me. I didn't ask how she knew. I didn't ask why her voice sounded like fire breathing backwards. I only asked, why didn't I die? She didn't answer. She turned and walked inside, and I followed. The room was filled with things that shouldn't exist anymore. Scrolls, bones, a basin filled with ash and honey. She pointed to the floor, a circle carved into the wood, 7 inward arrows. "I didn't save you," she said. "I redirected you." "I don't understand. You weren't meant to die that night. You were meant to complete the ritual." I stepped back. "You think I wanted to kill those people?" She shook her head. "No, but you were chosen to." She poured something from a vial, thick, dark red, into the basin. The air shimmered. The order needed you to die to complete the offering. But the offering was flawed. It asked for blood but forgot mercy. "So you stopped it?" She looked at me, eyes pale and endless. "I bound it. I bound you." Suddenly, I couldn't move. My legs froze. My chest locked. She stepped closer. "I split your soul across the years, hid pieces of you in lives you wouldn't recognize, gave you time to forget. But time is fragile, and memory is faithful." My throat tightened. I couldn't speak. "You weren't cursed, Thaddeus. You were preserved." "And now," I whispered. She touched my chest. Now the bindings are cracking. Every person you touched, every memory you awakened, every act of remembering is a thread unraveling. I felt it then, in my skin, in my spine, in the back of my mind where the other voice used to sleep. A stirring, a rising, not possession, resurrection. She gave me a small blade, black iron, cold. Your only way out is through. Through what? She didn't answer, but I knew. The fire, the blood, the memory, the others. I left her house before sunrise, and when I looked back, it wasn't there. Not the hill, not the trees, not the door I had walked through. Only ashes, only the smell of something ancient, released. That night, I dreamed of a woman I didn't recognize. She stood over my sleeping body, chanting, and in her hands was me, a version of me, small, infant, still burning, still glowing. She kissed my forehead and whispered, "You will not be reborn. You will be remembered." I woke up gasping, the blade in my hand, the mark on my wrist glowing faintly red. The bindings are failing, and I think I was never cursed. I was only postponed. Episode 8. I killed her. Again. This time I was sober. They say if you survive the fire once, it never forgets you. It waits, silently, in the walls of time, in the folds of your memory. It doesn't chase you. It follows, like something that knows exactly where you'll end up. I hadn't seen her before, not in this life, but when she walked into the room, I felt it, that horrible, sacred familiarity. Like the weight of a door I closed too softly, like a scream I once buried with prayer. Her name was Noelle. She was ordinary in every way. Ordinary smile, ordinary voice, except for her eyes. They were the same color as ash before it cools. We met in a coffee shop. She spilled something on my book, apologized, laughed, and then she froze. Her hand touched mine, and something passed between us. A flicker, a current, a ripple in the script of the universe. 3 days later, she asked me, "Have we met before?" In a place with no sky. My stomach turned. She dreamt of a field, of chanting, of a knife with her name already carved into it. She had never heard of Thaddeus Vale, but she described him perfectly, down to the scar on his wrist. My scar. I tried to pull away, tried to cut the thread before it tightened, but I couldn't, because deep down, I knew the truth. She was the last piece, the final offering, the one the ritual never completed, the death I had postponed. And now, time was correcting itself. I begged her to leave town. I deleted my number, burned my journals, locked myself in my apartment for 2 days. But fate doesn't care for locks. The night it happened, the moon was red, not metaphorically, blood-colored, like it had been waiting too. Noelle found me, not with anger, not with fear, with certainty. "I remember now," she said. "I remember your hands, your voice, the way you cried when you pressed a blade." Tears welled in her eyes. "You didn't want to do it, but you believed you had to." She stepped closer. "And now I do too." She placed a black iron blade into my hands. The same one Serafina had given me. The same one I had buried in a drawer, under clothes I no longer wore. "It has to end," she whispered. "Not for you. For them." I trembled. "No, there has to be another way." She smiled. Soft, sad. "There never was." And then she pressed the blade into her chest. Gently, willingly. I caught her, fell with her, held her as she bled. But this time, I was awake, fully, no haze, no trance, no voice guiding my hand. Just me, sober, human, and far, far too late. Her body collapsed in my arms. And I remembered the final line of the ritual, only when she offers herself. May truly belong time again. The fire didn't come, but something did. A stillness, a silence so complete, it felt like the universe exhaled. And in that stillness, I felt myself shift. Not forward, not backward, outward. Like I had just re-entered a shape that had been waiting for me. And from somewhere beyond sound, beyond thought, a voice said, "The first circle is closed. Now draw the next." I buried her beneath the chapel ruins. Same place I should have died. No name, no marker, only the symbol. 7 arrows pointing inward to where I stood, alone. I killed her again, but this time I was sober. And that's the part that will haunt me. Not the blood, not the fire, not the prophecy, but the knowing, the choice.